Welcome. My name is Hannah, and this session is a part of training series titled Career Clarity, helping people discover their fit and path. In this first module, we are going to rethink how we approach career counseling, especially in contexts where students and even sometimes adults are trying to find their place in the world. I am dedicating this video to a lovely friend sister of mine that I call Sisi. Sisi, I dedicate this work to you. You make me want to be better professionally. Please continue asking me questions and keep challenging me, okay? This is for you. In this first module, we want to explore rethinking career counseling from advice to discovery. If you've ever felt unsure about how to guide someone in choosing a career or even question your own path, then this conversation is for you. If you're a school counselor and you've ever advised a student about a career and then later wondered if it's truly the right fit for them, you're not alone. Many of us were trained in counseling, but when it comes to career counseling, we often feel unsure. Not because we lack knowledge, but because we're not always sure how to apply what we know in real conversations. And in contexts like ours, the challenge is even deeper. So we're working with students who are navigating parental expectations, students who have limited exposure to career options, and students who are pressured to choose prestigious paths, and sometimes very little understanding of themselves. So the question becomes, are we helping students choose careers, or are we helping them understand themselves well enough to choose wisely? This training is about shifting that approach. So how do we reframe career counseling? Career counseling is not just about telling students what to do or teaching them about course combinations and all that. It's actually about helping them discover who they are and where they fit. So when you see my diagrams, like it's a combination of who am I? What can I do? Where can I contribute? And what is it that I value? So when you think of career is not just a job title. It's not a degree. It's not a source of income. It's actually an intersection among these four. Okay, and when we miss this, then we see students dropping out of programs, especially for programs that are technical, or sometimes graduates feeling stuck, or professionals who are successful but super unfulfilled and unhappy. And sometimes that frustration shows up in disengagement. Disengagement is one of the root causes of burnout. So they are there, but they are not there. Low motivation, or for students, even behavioral issues in school. So our role as counselors is not to direct, it is to guide discovery. So you are helping them discover themselves and where they fit best. And for some of you, you may even need to do that for yourselves first before you guide students to do this discovery. If you are a counselor watching this, you probably may have taken some courses in career or vocational counseling, and you've heard of some theories, and it goes like, okay, I'm familiar with them, but what do I do? So I want to break it down, make a few tables to categorize them for you in case you are interested um, in refreshing your memory or in just remembering what you learn either in the undergraduate program or in the master's program. Okay. So this particular slide just talks about the three big classifications, and in subsequent slides, you'll see the tables. Some authors felt that people fit environments differently. So if I'm a relatively quiet person and I'm bookish, I'll fit an environment differently from somebody who is socially aware, the life of a party, likes to work with people, and also different from somebody who just likes to work with machines. And so this one was inspired by a theorist we call Holland. And so the question that becomes prominent is, where do students thrive? It's not just where do they do well, but where do we see that their souls and their hearts and their minds are fed? Then the next one says career is a journey, it's not a one-time decision. And that was inspired by a theorist called Super. So his idea was students often feel pressure to get it right immediately, but it's not just a one-time decision. And that exposure builds possibility. And this, I think, was inspired by Savikas, and we talk about him. So what he said was that a student cannot aspire to what they have never seen. Okay. So for Holland, he said students thrive in hands-on environment, sometimes in people-focused roles, sometimes in structured, detail-oriented settings, and sometimes in creative spaces. So when there's a fit, then people flourish. But when there's a mismatch, people struggle, even if they are capable. And then for the career is a journey, not a one-time decision. Super said students feel pressure to get it right immediately. Sorry about that. But career development is a process. So, hey, for many of you, what you liked at age 8 is not what you ended up. Once in a while, you find somebody who probably at 5 or 6 said, I will be this, and then they were able to. But for most of us, what we liked at 13, we chose something different at 18, and we even evolved at 25 and sometimes at 30. So, the job is to prepare them for adaptability, not just decision making. And then the last one that talks about exposure builds possibility. It says that a student cannot aspire to what they have never seen. So if all they know are doctor, lawyer, engineer, then those become the only acceptable dreams. So sometimes the issue is not ability, it is limited exposure. Sometimes our students have never heard of some careers before, nor seen people function in there. So when they see that, then they go like, oh, this is fascinating, and I can see myself doing that. So I grouped, should I say group, should I say categorized our theories into matching, developmental, I think postmodern, and I will try to connect it to our psychotherapeutic theories or counseling theories or systems that we have learned in our theories classes. Okay, so the matching approach is more of what we call the scientific approach, and it feels a bit like CBT because it is structured, it is data driven in nature. And the one that we attribute this to mainly is Frank Parsons. Frank Parsons came up with a factor or trait factor theory, and he's known to be the father of guidance. So he is all about the three-step model. And I remember there was a group of students I was teaching this, and I said, in Africa, in many African villages, we use a tripod. If you take one stone out, the food will topple over. And so Frank Parsons did a good job looking at these three, saying that you have to know yourself as one of the tribe, know the job, and then use true reasoning to link them. Then we have John Holland. John Holland helped us a lot in giving us the RIASEC. So personalities are stable and seek environments that let them be themselves and to be good at what you're doing. So the goal of counseling is to help the client find congruence between their personality and the work climate. So how do we know that career counseling has worked? When the client's code, for example, if a client is high on social, matches their chosen environment. And so when you take the RISEC assessment, you will match their code with the kind of job environments that they would thrive in. And then Dawes and Lofquist also talked about the theory of work adjustment. What they said was humans seek to fulfill their needs and be competent in their environment. And the goal of career counseling is to help achieve correspondence or mutual satisfaction. And the client stays in a job and feels satisfied. That's when we call the term they have achieved tenure. Okay. It's not just an academic term we use in academia for those who are lecturers. So for Dawes and Lovequist, the focus is it's not just do I like the job, but does the job satisfy my needs? And do I satisfy the job's requirements? So we are going through all this so that when you are able to connect this to your theoretical orientation, maybe that will also provide a click for you to help either the learners, for those of you who are in the school space, or for even adults wanting to re-enter the world of work. Okay. Now we have the developmental family. This is called the lifespan approach. And this actually connects very well with Adlerian or psychodynamic orientation because they look at growth over time and they look at what influence the childhood had over a particular person's adulthood. And we can attribute some of these things to Donald Super. He came up with the lifespan, life space. I think he's the one who gave us the rainbow. And he believed that humans are evolving and career is the implementation of a self-concept. He said that the goal of counseling is to develop career maturity and balance life roles because for every season of our lives, we focus on something different. And how do we know that career counseling has been successful? When the client effectively manages transitions. So when they are in school and they are moving to the world of work, the transition becomes easy. Then we come to enroll. How I remember enroll when I was a master's student. That was the era where internet was just coming up and there was no information about enroll. So I don't even remember where we got some of these things from and we managed to understand a bit. But when you look at Donald Super and Linda Gottfredson, what they are looking at is at this stage, what were you interested in and how did that change over time? And so Anne Rose said early childhood climates create lasting psychological needs. So to understand how unconscious needs drive career interest. So when a client has gained mastery, we know that when the client gains insight into why they gravitate towards or away from people. Then we come to Linda Gottfredson, and she came up with a theory called circumscription and compromise. So she said that choice is a process of elimination based on social identity. Where am I? What community did I grow up in? What is acceptable? What is not? What am I allowed to do as somebody in primary school or somebody in junior high or somebody in senior high or even somebody in the university? And how do I drop some of the ones that are not acceptable away? It doesn't mean something is illegal or bad, but it's just life changes, life seasons, and where you find yourself. And in the goal of counseling is to expand the zone of tolerable alternatives. So what are all the options that I have? How do we know that career counseling has worked? When the client considers options that they previously ruled out due to stereotypes. So we are saying, well, this is what they say is acceptable, but this is not acceptable. But I love this one and it feeds my soul. So I go back for it. So we want in this theory, we want the client to be able to say, when I was 8, I dropped it, but now that I'm 25, I think I want to go back to it. So nothing is set in cement. Then Ginsberg and colleagues came up with what they call the Ginsberg theory, and they look at human beings as developmental processes. Of course, this is a developmental family. So they are moving through fantasy and tentative stages to realistic. So many children, when they are kids, they say, I want to be like this when I grow up. And as they grow, it changes. And according to Ginsberg, that is okay, perfectly okay. So for me, what my takeaway from Ginsberg is that we don't force kids to stick to one. When a kid is telling you, oh, I want to be the one who collects the trash. No, you can't say that because it changes. Maybe they are interested in waste, but they don't have a language for it. So instead of shutting them down, allow them to fantasize. allow them to develop, and allow it to move into what makes them happy. At the end of the day, if it puts food on the table and it makes a person thrive, that's what we are looking for. Okay, so that's it with the developmental theories. Then we have the learning and cognitive. This is actually a direct cousin to social learning theory and Bandura's work. Okay, so it's very, very important for counselors. It's actually perfect for counselors who want to focus on behavior change. And we can ascribe some of this to Lentz et al. And John Crumbles. So Crumbles designed the learning theory, or others call it planned happenstance. And he says that people are products of learning experiences. So indecision is actually open-mindedness. So when you listen to this, you realize many of the theories are open to a person changing their mind. And the goal of therapy is to help a person develop curiosity and learn from chance events. Sometimes you least expect it. And I remember the current car I use. I think one of my GAs was like, the situation around how we got the car was like, I least expected it. I was going somewhere, somebody bought the car I was using, and all of a sudden, wait, I'm going to walk back home. What do I do? And then they brought this one. So she was asking me how, when you least expect something and something good happened. So I said, oh, the word for it is serendipitous. I was like, that's a mouthful for a car. So we ended up calling the car Serene. I think serendipitous a bit is like planned happenstance. Just that in the concept of serendipitous, you don't plan it. It's a good thing that happens to you. But this one, it's planned because I am curious. I don't expect it. And then all of a sudden, because I'm open-minded, I see it and it just drops like, this is who and what I am. Okay, so how do we know career counseling has worked? When the client takes action without a perfect plan. So, oh, I want to do an interview, I want to do it, but I don't have it all together, just that I want to try. And so they take that step. And Lenz Brown came up with social cognitive career theory. I think in a couple of slides earlier, I had said that was Savickas. It's not. So that's the social cognitive career theory by Lenz, Brown, and Hackett. And they said that people are self-regulating agents influenced by self-efficacy. And that's why this one aligns a lot with Bandura. So to build self-efficacy and remove perceived barriers is the goal of counseling. How do we know that career counseling has worked? When the client expresses, I can do this regarding a specific career task. Okay, so that confidence that comes in the ability to do something. And then we have the last group of theories we classify as postmodern or narrative. And this is career construction by Mark Savickas. This is the storytelling approach deeply connects with the narrative therapy and constructivism. So reality is not discovered, it is built. And according to Savickas, he sees humans as the authors of their own lives who give meaning to their life experiences. And the goal of counseling is to identify life themes and increase career adaptability. So how do we know that career counseling has worked? The client tells a coherent story where their career choice makes sense. So it's not a matter of somebody says I should do this, but this is what fits for me. This is what fits for me. All right. So there are things we need to do as a career counselor when students come in. And we call this the 333 career snapshot. And this is just me using that terminology. We want to assess our learners' interests, their strengths, and their values. How do I assess their interests? I can ask a simple question. And it's not everything you need a paper and pencil assessment. This is just having a conversation with them. So you can ask a simple thing like, what are 3 things you enjoy doing? Just 3. And you write it down for them. What subjects do you look forward to? Every adolescent has a favorite subject and something they don't like. And so the third one concerning their interests is, what do you do even when no one asks you to? And then to assess their strength, we just go like, what are 3 things you are good at? What do teachers or friends often praise you for? You see the connection. And what do people come to you for help with? Then the third one is values. What kind of life do you want in future? Oh, allow the students to dream. And what matters more to you? Is it to help people? Is it to make money? Is it being creative? Is it to have stability? And remember, based on the theoretical lens you're using, you'll be able to understand the clients as, oh, they came from poverty. So for them, making money is important. Or they didn't live in their own home, they live with relatives. So for them, stability is important. But you don't just take the values, you're connecting the values with the strengths and the interests. Okay, so something like, what kind of environments do you see yourself in? In subsequent module lectures, we are probably going to be talking about using the petal of a flower to design who and what you are, as well as your dream. Okay, so I want you to pause and reflect. And while we are doing that, I have a few questions I need you to ask yourself. First one is, have I been advising or guiding? Then as a school counselor, do I focus more on careers or on the student, the person? And then what assumptions do I hold about successful careers? Because you know what? How we think shapes how we guide. And so when the learner comes to sit with us, if I assume that because they live in this particular area, they are bad, it shapes how I guide. But if they come in and I believe that every child has what it takes to survive and flourish, that also guides what I do and how I guide them. So to end this, I just want to say if this session has shifted how you think about career counseling, even if it's slightly, then you're already on the right path. But you know what? Understanding is just the beginning. So in the next modules, we will dive deeper into how to assess students more effectively, how to have meaningful career conversations, how to work with parents who have strong expectations as they should, and how to connect students to real world opportunities so that you don't just understand career counseling, you can do it confidently and effectively. I look forward to continuing this journey with you. See you in the next module. Bye.